to join us this morning on the Local Skills Strategy webinar. And the purpose of this webinar is to give you some background on the role of CIMSPA, active partnerships, and how that feeds into the local skills strategy, and hopefully with your support, how we can drive this initiative moving forwards. Again, if there are any questions, please do ask, pop them in the chat. But again, we are staying on at the end, so please do stay on if you do have any direct questions. So moving on to some introductions. So we have myself, so my name's Claire Dunn, and I am the Head of Partnerships for CIMSPA. It is my role to engage and support with the sector partner network, which includes employers, deployers, the self-employed, training provider partners, awarding organisations, and higher education and further education institutes. We also have Laura Lill on the webinar. You can just see that's just popped up on a video there, and Laura is the project lead for this pilot and managing the whole process. Laura will introduce herself shortly when she talks around the purpose of the skills strategy plan and how we could use your support in delivering this. We also have Leon Smith, and Leon is the retrain course coordinator. You can just see him pop up there as well. And he is the retraining course coordinator for CIMSPA, and Leon is leading on the organisational and individual training needs analysis for this project. And again, Leon will introduce himself and how the OTNA will feed in to drive this initiative moving forward. So some of you may or may not have heard of CIMSPA, and CIMSPA stands for the Chartered Institute for the Management of Sport and Physical Activity. We are the professional development body for UK sport and physical activity sector, and we are funded by Sport England. Our vision is to shape a recognised and respected sector that everybody wants to be a part of, which you will see on our next slide. And what CIMSPA's role is, what we do within the sector, is we work with stakeholders across and beyond the sector to achieve this. And we are committed to supporting and developing and enabling professionals and organisations to succeed. And as a result, ultimately, to inspire our nation to become more active. We support talent, we help develop careers, and we inspire professionalism. And we set clear regulatory standards for success, continuing the development of a modern and respected sport and physical activity sector. And we do this by engaging with sport and physical activity sectors, workforce such as yourselves, and key stakeholders to identify the best practices and standards that should be adopted within our sector. And then what we do, once these are identified, we then develop them into something called professional standards. And we have professional standards for every deployable job role that has been identified with the sport and physical activity sector in collaboration with yourselves and sector partners. So that's a little bit in a very short and sweet background of CIMSPA. So next, the partnership executive. So the role of the partnership executive, and they sit within the partnerships team at CIMSPA, and it is their role to build and manage the relationship at a local level. By engaging with stakeholders, we can identify the requirements and expectations of the sector's workforce, and to help support employers and deployers. We help find the areas for development and barriers for affecting its ability to deliver successfully. And the partnership executives will be on hand throughout this entire process to support you with the OTNA. Active partnerships, most of you on this call will have heard of active partnerships, and we're working in collaboration with 6 of them for this project. So active partnerships are locally based strategic organisations that recognise that activity levels are affected by a complex system of influences, and no single organisational programme can create sustainable change at scale, hence the collaboration moving forwards. But by adopting a collaborative whole system approach, active partnerships seek to make active lifestyles a social norm and for everyone, and address the worrying levels of inactivity in society, certainly post-COVID, now coming out of COVID, to getting more people more active. A little bit of background on active partnerships. There are 43 active partnerships that cover England and work collaboratively with local partners. But for this pilot, as you can see on the logos on your screen, we will be working with 6 of these. And we have some of them on the call today. So we have Active Essex, we have Active Suffolk, we have Hurt Sports, we have Living Sport, North Yorkshire Sport, and Team Beds and Luton. So again, some of the active partnerships, key contacts will be staying on at the end. So again, if you do have any questions directly for them, please do take that opportunity. So to give you a little bit of a background really of what this initiative is about and what we're trying to achieve and why we need your support is, if we talk about spend within the sport and physical activity sector, so a quick whistle-stop snapshot of this is an example of the current spend in sport and physical activity sector is around 800 million, and that is currently invested in individuals who study sport and physical activity related qualifications in a full-time educational setting. So this relates to FE and HE, colleges and universities. But in addition to this, there is another 300 million that is invested in standalone qualifications in the sport and physical activity sector. And these tend to be your frontline deployable roles, such as swimming teachers, gym instructors and coaches. And 400,000 of these are certificated through the awarding organisation network. So awarding organisations such as Active IQ and the Royal Life Saving Society. So that's an estimated 1.1 billion spend per annum on education and training in our sector, and that's alone just in the sport and physical activity sector. And even though that much is currently spent on this, we tend to find that it's still unable to deliver a deployable workforce for us. So we're working collaboratively with Active Partnerships as part of this pilot to assess the skills gaps that sit within the sector and to develop a local skills strategy at a regional level to support the sector's education and training needs. So what you can see here is a pictorial version of the sector-wide occupational map. And as you can see here, it's split down into 3 areas. There is a 6th one, which is outdoors, and this is how we've sort of group the sector together. So Simsbury are working with employers and deployers and also the self-employed to develop and create the professional standards, as I mentioned before, for the sport and physical activity sector job roles. But we recognise that our workforce are the absolute experts in what is required to deliver a successful and quality service to the public, what is required on the ground and when you're deployed in this role. So we have and we continue to adopt a lead by listening approach, where we can develop and create career pathways for every role in the sector, ensuring that we capture the best talent and retain our workforce. And this demonstrates, as you can see, there's a lot of boxes in there and arrows, the pathways and the ability to move into and through the different areas of the sector by recognising quality learning experience that our workforce has to offer, but giving them the tools and the framework to be fully adaptable across a multiple of job roles and allowing them to be recognised for the work that they do. And by completing the organisational, the individual training needs analysis, we can collate some qualitative data in relation to training needs and aspirations. And this will hopefully highlight the pinch points, such as specific job roles or specific training needs that you may have as an organisation or individual that you feel would be required or beneficial over the next 12 months, which will support and highlight the importance of education and training in our sector. And this pilot, the ongoing process of this, will ultimately feed into plans to access funding and help lobby support for our sector. Similar to the recent success that Simsbury have had along with other strategic partners with the Retrain and Reactivate funding, which has supported the sector throughout the COVID pandemic and continues to do so. But to show you how all this links in with the pilot and with Active Partnerships, I'm now going to pass you over to our project lead, Laura Lill.
Thanks, Claire. Good morning, everyone, and thanks for joining us, and thanks in advance for your support with this. As Claire mentioned, this is a great skills pilot that we're embarking on, and very much supported by the Active Partnerships as well. The main aim of this pilot is to produce the local skills strategy. And in order to put together a strategy that's current, based on real data, that's where we need your support and your input through the organisational training needs analysis. The work that we've done so far is to identify what the key perspectives are in the local area from the local enterprise partnerships, the LEPs. We've been working in conjunction with the LEPs to put together the perspective of sport and physical activity. And those of you who are familiar with working with LEPs, sometimes the sport and physical activity sector is not wholly represented in its own right. It's usually through something else, such as the skills or science sector. So our aim really is to lift the profile of our sector and to produce some training and skills analysis that really dovetails into that local potential. The local skills strategy will hopefully identify the gaps in the skill provision, and it will also help us provide what we need and the training we need to get people into work so that they can realise their full potential. And it'll also improve the productivity, but help towards that inclusive growth for sport and physical activity sector. And it'll also improve the productivity and economic output for employers. So our aim really is to really tap into that local growth and show what the sport and physical activity sector can contribute. The OTNA will also provide us sort of an assessment really of the labour market and the skills system of the local area. And at the moment, we're doing an analysis on the employment priorities. So we're looking at who's advertising for jobs within the sport and physical activity sector, and we're then cross-referencing that to the skills of what we've got in the local area. And by doing that, we should know whether or not we've got the right skills to match the right jobs, and also identify those gaps that we need more training in. So the local skills strategy will help us manage those relationships with the policy leads, with the LEPs, and help us to show clearly and disseminate the right information, but also to help us develop that common understanding. So we want to deliver the skills and employment training through the effective plans, but that relationship with the LEP and with the local partners will help facilitate that. And hopefully, as Claire said, we should be able to be successful in retrieving some allocation of resources in these areas. So the local skills strategy is supported by the local skills board, and the government have put together a template really for the LEPs to put together advisory boards, and we want to dovetail into this format, and we've developed a local skills board that is specifically around providing the local skills strategy. And the local skills board are run by the active partnerships, but they've got representatives of all of our providers, operators, partners, employers. And the idea is that we bring all that expertise together so we can check and challenge and have that wide-reaching, overarching view. And the local skills board will also have that duty to help produce the local skills strategy. We've got quite a tight turnaround on this because it's a pilot. And as I said, the outcome we want from the pilot is to produce this strategy. So we're working very quickly with this to produce a strategy by June time, and we'll hopefully go out for consultation throughout that. And then really we will hopefully have pulled together all the relevant data to give us a robust strategy. The other key partner in this is the HE and FE. The colleges currently provide lots of sport and physical activity courses. They also help deliver the training, and they're also a key partner with the LEP. So we're working very closely with these partners to make sure that we've got all of their input and we've got that three-way strategic approach to it. So the collaborative strategic leadership alongside CIMSPA and the active partnerships will really help this strategy, and also help to advise the local skills boards and advisory panels going forward. So the next slide that you'll see will be Leon taking you through the organisational training need analysis, and he'll show the importance of why we want to collect your data.
Thanks, Laura. Morning, everybody. Hope you're all well. As Claire mentioned earlier, I'm the Retrain Project Coordinator at CIMSPA. I've been overseeing the delivery of the Retrain initiative over the past 6 months. I've come into this pilot to support the development of the OTNA that I'll go over now in a bit more detail. As Claire said before, any questions as I go, just bang them into the Q&A and one of the team will pick it up as I'm speaking. So why are SIMSPA and your active partnership asking you to complete this? Simply put, we want to capture you and or your company's training needs. This will enable us to better understand the skills needed in your area, make sure the provision is available, and provide the training in the most efficient way, providing better value to yourselves and your employees. The TNAs have been designed to represent all roles across the sector, where we have, in consultation with your active partnership, identified skills required across each of the roles. This is a pilot project, so we understand there may be areas that you feel we've missed, and there will be an opportunity within the TNA at numerous points to identify these as well. The key points, though, to remember when you are completing this TNA for the pilot are there will be 2 separate training needs analysis links that you're sent, one for organisations and one for self-employed. It is important you select the correct link when you receive them, as the questions on both are slightly different. We're collecting information at county level. So if your organisation operates across 2 or more of the counties listed in the drop-down you'll see on the first page, you will need to complete 1 TNA per county. If you are self-employed, you need to complete for the county you would say you work for the most amount of time in per week. The local skills plans will be produced at a county level, so it's really important we capture information this way to best reflect the training needs of the area, which will hopefully then support in gaining funding to fill those needs, ultimately benefiting yourselves and your workforce. You'll be asked to identify training needs across all of the relevant roles in your organisation. If you're self-employed, you'll be asked to identify your role first, and then from the options available, you will then be asked to identify your training needs in the same sort of way. It's important to remember that all of the job roles listed on the TNA and the self-employed TNA align themselves with the professional standards for the sector. They are broad occupations that may cover a range of job roles and titles. So for example, if you see sports coach, this could include a community coach, a school sports coach, high performance coach, talent coach, skills coach, you get where I'm going. We're asking you to broadly group your people or yourself into the categories that we've listed within the TNAs. And we will be providing a guidance sheet to support you in completing the TNA. So where you'll be able to see on this that there are specific job roles that fit within these options. If you are still unsure though where your job role sits, there is an option to select other, where you can then type in your role in manually and outline any additional training needs you have identified as you go on. And we've put up some screenshots now of what you can expect to see across both of the TNAs. So thank you, Claire. Both TNAs are in the final stages of development, and we are currently going for a consultation period for feedback internally and with your active partnership. So I expect the versions that you will receive will be very, very close to what you're seeing on screen now. The template for both is similar, and the core purpose, as I've said, is identifying those training needs in both. For organisations, you will be asked to select all of the relevant job roles that apply to your organisation from the list. Once you've done this, a table of skills will appear beneath each role with a couple of additional questions. You'll then be asked to rank each of the skill areas that are listed 1 to 5, 1 being a key area for you and your workforce in terms of development, and 5 being an area that you don't see as a priority right now. Same model is in place for self-employed. So once you've selected your relevant role from the list, you'll then be asked again to rank these skills in the table 1 to 5, 1 being a priority, 5 being not at the moment. If you are unsure of where your job role sits or any of the roles in your organisation sit, please refer to the information sheet that will be sent to you, as we'll provide guidance and example roles for each of the professional standards. But if you are still unsure, by all means contact us or your active partnership for additional support. There is as well, like I say, the select other option as well, where you can manually type in the role. There are a handful of other questions related to training and apprenticeships within the TNAs, but in total, once you have the information you need, neither should take any longer than 10 minutes to complete. It is important though you do complete all of the sections of the TNA and the self-employed TNA, as all of the information collected will help contribute to these local skills strategies that Lara was talking about before. You may only be able to complete part of the TNA or the self-employed TNA at one time. So within both, there is the save and resume option available. This will enable you to go away, get hold of the information you need, and come back and finish it at a later date. As Lara's mentioned, the aim is to create a local skills strategy based on this data that we are collecting. So we are asking you to identify job roles and skill areas so we can then start to shape these plans. the more information that we can collect through these TNAs, the more we'll have to analyse to create local skills plans that are tailored specifically to your areas. Okay, just got to quickly touch on GDPR, which I know is everyone's favourite subject. We do have a data sharing agreement in place, where you can see a snapshot on these slides now. Again, these are very, very similar in structure across both, and this will outline the data we will be using and who will be sharing it with. This will be at the very start of both TNAs, and you will need to tick the box at the bottom declaring that you are happy for the data we are collecting to be shared with the named third parties within this. Very, very important to remember though, the data will be anonymised within the local strategy. So we'll not be sharing names of organisations or people when we formulate these plans. The information will be collected and generalised, such as X job role has identified an urgent need for X skill. So there'll be no named organisation saying this organisation said this, it will all be anonymised data. We will keep hold of this data until all of the local skill strategies have been created, and all data will be managed in accordance with the CIMSPA privacy notice that you'll be able to have a look at when you go into the TNA. There will be a link, as you can see, and the cursor is shown on the screen that you can have a read of as well. I hope that all makes sense for now. I'm conscious I've rattled through it fairly quickly, but as I say, if you do need any additional support at all, please do contact ourselves or your local active partnership. The contact details for us will be on the final slide, so do make a note of those when we get there. But yeah, like I say, we are here to support. Please do use us for this, and like Laura said before, thank you for your contribution to this. It is going to be really, really helpful for us moving forward in creating these plans. So thank you. I will pass back over to Laura now to go through the timelines and the next steps and what to expect from here.
That's great. Thanks, Leon. So what happens next? Already you should have had an introductory email that's been sent by the Active Partnership and some information about the project. Second up, you will be receiving the OTNA next, and again that'll be from the Active Partnership via email. So if there's anybody else you want to include into that, then you can also add that to the Active Partnership list. We are anticipating that week commencing May the 17th, we will send that out. We were sort of conscious that the sector's just reopening, and we wanted all the facilities operators to get back up and running and get into a bit more of a routine before we bombarded you with this email and the OTNA. So we thought that giving you a few more weeks will just allow that to happen. But that will come out on May the 17th, or that week commencing. And if we could ask you to complete the OTNA by the 31st of May, we wanted to keep it quite short just to allow you some time to get your heads around it, ask any questions, but also not so it goes too long and we don't get that information back. And as I mentioned earlier, we're trying to get the local skills strategies produced for June. In July, we're working to finalise those strategies, and that will be between CIMSPA Active Partnerships and the local skills board. And then we're anticipating, all being well, once those strategies are completed, that we'll be able to present those strategies to the LEPs from August onwards. And we are now in the process of just having deeper conversations with the LEPs. These are new relationships, new partnerships, so it's going to take time to work out what the best approach is, and also whether or not this is a priority for the LEP at this time. But that's the timetable, and we are currently on track, so hopefully we should be good going forward as well. So the next slide is just a list there for your information of the partners, active partnerships, the main contact, which you've probably been in contact with already, but they're there for you. And then, of course, any questions or any support that you need from CIMSPA, the email address is at the bottom there, and please don't hesitate to get in touch if it's around this project or anything else that you might have. But again, thanking you in advance for all your support on this, and we're looking forward to treading new territory and taking this forward. Thanks, Claire.
Thank you, Laura, and thank you, Leon. So that concludes